Hey everybody, my name is Mike Hollinger. I'm the Chief Architect for Computer Vision and AI Apps here at IBM. We're going to go through a couple of things today. First, I want to share just a little bit of my background. I actually have been working at IBM for about 15 years, and my job is to make great software that our customers can use and to infuse AI into their businesses. So one of the major tools that I use in my team, with my team, to do that is design thinking. We'll go through a couple of things in this session. We'll use the Jamboard, so hop on the Jamboard and we'll be able to go back and forth. And as you can see, I'm in the chat too on the workshops channel, so please feel free to ping me there too. So let's get started. Good design is good business. IBM's legacy is great design, and it dates back to an era ushered in by one of our CEOs, Thomas Watson Jr. And I can extend that statement to good design is good engineering practice. We'll show you today how to design systems and software using these principles that can work in diverse multidisciplinary teams and deliver at the scale that's required. And given that you have about 18 hours and change, deliver in the time required. So we'll answer three things. First, what is design thinking? What are the tools? And then how's it applied? Now, I have a step 0, however, since I am a computer engineer, we have a warm-up exercise. As I said, I want you to go into the Jamboard. You'll see a couple of new pages that I inserted in there. I want you to spend about a minute and draw a treehouse. Feel free to, don't think much about it, just experiment, but draw a treehouse. And I'll pop the Jamboard open and we can watch it. Go into the design thinking warm-up, and I will do this here. And I'll actually start over here in the corner here. Anybody else want to join in? You have a rope to get down there from the ground. Maybe a little window here. All right, I'll give you another 15 seconds. So wrap up your ideas. Get those details in. All right, and that's just about time. So let's take a look at what we got here, right? So my prompt to you was draw a treehouse. And if we really think about this, now I'm going to give you a slightly different prompt, okay? Now I'll give you a little bit more time, maybe a little thinking time in addition to drawing time. On the next page, I'd like you to create a treehouse for the blind. And I don't want to influence you too much this time, so I'll let you be on your way. Maybe we'll spend about another minute on this one, okay? So let's go to page 4. Notice this is a little bit of a different prompt, isn't it? And I'll give you about another 30 seconds because I see some cool stuff going on. Oh, that's awesome. All right, another few seconds. Get any last details in there if you want to get them in there. All right, so let's take a look at what we got. So, oh yeah, and feel free to toss some stickies on if you want to capture in actual text. So, looking at the difference between these two for a minute. In the first prompt, I told you I prescribed to you draw a treehouse, and I kind of limited in the way I defined that what I got as an outcome. If we go back and look at our results, we kind of got different variations of the same thing. We had a tree with a house literally in it and some doors and oh, rain collector. That's cool. I like that. And we had some other like the details like a ladder or a rope and a person for scale over here, right? Oh, and I think I see like a deck kind of out there surrounding the tree, which is cool. But given the second prompt, right, given the treehouse for the blind prompt, we had a couple of different experiences built into it, right? We've got the idea of introducing texture, utilizing other senses. We have the elevator. We've got railings for getting in and out, right? Carved into the tree, which is great, right? You could actually, nothing so we had to build it on the tree, you could build it into the tree. And the Braille sign, I think that's a great detail that I wouldn't have necessarily thought about. So given these things, you can start kind of thinking about experiences like what might be the way to experience the warmth of sunlight filtering through tree branches or the wind flowing through the leaves. When you focus and consider on that user experience from the very inception of the idea, when you phrase your goals around what you want the experience to be, then you can be surprised by the possibilities. Design thinking is a framework for delivering great user experiences to our clients and to our customers. We're going to put ourselves in our user's shoes and let that user experience drive the way we think about our solutions. That's why this framework's devised. And it's not just about creating great user experience, but also delivering them and doing so in a very complex, multidisciplinary, time-constrained kind of team. And it helps to define what I mean by user experience as well. Too often we start with a brief such as design a bike, right? So we'll get out our spreadsheets, we'll write down all the parts required to make a bike, and we end up with the same old stuff that's already in the marketplace. We get something like this. We got a list of features. This is not an experience. A bicycle fundamentally is not a user experience. This is an experience. Imagine the feel of the gravel underneath the wheels, having to chart out your course on the road, having the background of this majestic vista, feeling the wind against your face, the sun beating down on you. This is the type of experience that we want to think about when we say designing user experience for our customers. And of course, we know that person's experience is not every experience, right? Bicycles are used thousands of different ways. And like the bicycle, we need to understand that all our ways or products are used. But how do we best chart a course that enables us to address our users' needs? Design thinking is that scalable framework, and it's designed to help users and help teams understand and deliver for their users continuously. Now, there's a bunch of different frameworks out there, and we're not in IBM reinventing the wheel here. We use design thinking just like others do. We have, however, changed a couple of things to enable our teams to deliver at the pace and scale that the modern enterprise demands. Now, before we begin, I want to make sure everyone understands what we mean when we say design. Design is the purpose, planning, and intent behind an action, fact, or material object. In other words, design is the intent behind an outcome. Nothing more, nothing less. Human-centered outcomes require empathy for the people we serve. And to solve these big problems quickly, we have to have a framework to work together across disciplines. We created design thinking to help with this. This helps us to understand people's needs, form intent, and deliver outcomes at speed and at scale. You'll be putting these into practice, I hope, as you take your ideas and run them through the hackathon and get out the other side. Now, there's three major parts here. There's what we call the principles, which are a frame to see problems and solutions from a new point of view. The loop, which is a behavioral model to understand our users' needs and deliver those outcomes continuously. And the keys, which are tools and techniques to deliver at speed and scale. So let's take the principles first. These are almost prerequisites for design thinking. They should frame the way you see problems. They are a focus on user outcomes, having multidisciplinary teams, and restless reinvention. By joining up to this hackathon, you are absolutely pulling from inside of you these same principles. You have your teams that you've built up. You have this idea of putting something together and seeing how it's going to work. And my hope is by the end of this conversation, you'll know how to form that in a way that really centers on that user outcome. Now, really, you got to make sure you understand what your team values. You want to make your users your North Star. When we align around our users, this aligns around their needs and measures success on the value that you're going to bring to them with whatever you're building, right? You want to involve them in your work, whether it's for this project or for your next projects. You also need to be able to move quickly. And to do that, you need to be able to succeed or fail as a team. This is vitally important that you can collaborate in real time and not be just a link in a chain of sequential actions. This requires you to have a shift in mindset. It requires empathy, not only with your users, but with each other. It requires trust and respect amongst the whole team. And it requires you to put the needs of the team above your own. And finally, you want to bias toward action. Fundamental user needs haven't changed, but the way we address them really does, right? So treat everything as a prototype, even stuff that's out there in the market today. When you treat everything as just another iteration, you're empowered to rethink solutions to even the oldest of problems. Now, at the heart of design thinking is a behavioral model for discovering users' needs and envisioning a better future. This is a continuous loop of observing, reflecting, and making. Observe means to get to know people, uncover their needs, and test your ideas. Reflect is building on that understanding, forming an intent, and committing to decisions. And making is exploring those ideas, prototyping possibilities, and driving outcomes. Now, a great outcome is one that fits your user's needs and real-world intent. It's exactly what they need. But it's easy to get caught in the excitement of creating something and miss critical details about their lived experience. It's about immersing yourself in your user's world to get to know them as people, build empathy with them, figure out what makes them tick, learn the landscape. You want to find wisdom and cautionary tales from competitors, collaborators, and case studies. And you need to test ideas. You want to validate or invalidate your ideas by putting them into the user's hands. Listen for feedback. Now, good decisions begin with an understanding of your situation, your purpose, and how you can make a difference to your users. And before you move forward, you must take the time to make sense of where you are and what you've learned. Reflecting is about coming together and converging on a point of view to find some common ground. You want to get to know your team members as people, not just as some people on a team, right? Not just as coworkers. You want to understand what you can and can't do as a team. You want to align your team. Everyone's got to be on the same page. And plan ahead. Decide on the next move. Commit to an idea. Or take another loop. When you reflect together to stay in sync. Reflecting is individually is important, but reflecting as a team is fundamental to great collaboration. And it's easy to get caught in analysis paralysis. And earlier you start making, the faster you can learn. And we know that as abstractly, right, as engineers and as scientists and hackers and software developers. But having the audacity to put your ideas in the world is a little bit of a different thing. You might be wrong, and there's nothing wrong with that. Making is about getting your hands dirty to communicate concepts. A picture's worth 1,000 words. Don't tell people ideas, show them. Explore your ideas, think with your hands, find out what works and what doesn't, take advantage of those happy accidents, prototype things, prototype possibilities. You saw in the previous session really great ways to start putting together a website. You saw the ways to rapidly get your stuff into some HTML and mess with it with CSS and see how it changes on the screen. Build those prototypes and validate them and simulate the experience you want to deliver. And finally, drive outcomes. The only way to see an outcome is to make it happen. If you start every journey by reflecting to converge on what you intend to do, you can, after that, go in any order you like. Observe, reflect, then make, or make, reflect, then observe. Find your momentum as a team. What's important is that you do all three and that you keep moving. So finally, we come to the keys. This is deceptively simple as a model. Collaboration between product management, engineering, and design, right? It's not that easy, though. In reality, any organization, any team, really, is going to have all these different specialists between people focusing on back-end services, engineering, design, product management, marketing, sales, the customer, quality testing, right? This is the reality of any organization that's doing any work with more than a handful of team members. So you want to be able to work across and have some activities and some tools to really facilitate working as a team in this context. These are some of the common design activities and artifacts that we use in design thinking. They tend to be things like sticky notes or sticky notes on Jamboard or Mural or whatever the tool is you might use. There are things that you can throw away, right? Things that you can iterate on, things you can scratch on. And they make decision-making and creating very low cost. Design thinking is all about, at the essence of it, diverging and converging. When I say diverge, what I mean is that idea generation. A pad of Post-its and a Sharpie. Hop in a Jamboard and just sketching something for a minute. Write more than you talk, right? There's no bad ideas. Ideas are cheap. Ideas are free. Kill your darlings is a phrase that someone might say, right? But after that, you want to converge as a team. Go through the ideas generated and give them all an honest look. Look for themes. Create groups or clusters. Those groups will help you suggest a direction going next. It's important for teams to explore a wide range of ideas to address user needs together and do it often. And you do this together because then as you generate ideas, you can make decisions informed by everyone's expertise. You can learn what's most important and feasible with the time that you have and the people you have. And you want to explore often because your team should always be learning new things, or maybe encounter new constraints that affect what you could design or should design. For most teams, diverging to generate many ideas is not that hard. The hard work is making sense of those ideas, how they relate to each other or how they don't, and agreeing upon the most important and feasible ideas to pursue. Your work as a facilitator is about creating the conditions where those steps occur, pushing the team and converging on the right at the moment, in the now. So to recap, design thinking has three major parts. There's the principles, which is a frame to see problems and solutions from a new point of view. There's the loop, which is observe, reflect, make, a behavioral model to understand users' needs and deliver outcomes continuously. The keys, which are techniques to scale your practice to complex problems and complex teams. This is our framework to help teams understand and deliver continuously. Now, recapping, right? There's that idea of diverging, that idea of generating a billion different cool things. Topping and Jamboard, right? There's converging. There's going through those, sifting through them, looking for themes, and so on. I'm going to share with you three different practices that I hope will be useful in the hackathon and useful beyond it in your next gigs. Those are a big ideas map, an empathy map, and a prioritization grid. So let's talk about big ideas for a minute. It's actually something that's easier for me to show rather than tell. So I'll hop out of my presentation for a moment. We'll zoom in a little bit on our idea bank, right? I want to take a little bit of a look on just this section for a moment. So hop back into our Jamboard and go to page 5. Also, if you're in Discord, I'm going to put a prompt for you, right? So in the workshops channel, toss out some ideas of a problem we want to solve, right? It might be to create something to do something. It might be to help someone be better at something, right? It may be to work on some process to make something go faster. Just shoot some stuff out. I want to see what you guys come up with, and then we'll pick from those and we'll go through an exercise here. So help students stop procrastinating on big assignments, combat global warming. All right, those are good. What else you got? Oh, I see lots of typing. Work on recipe books to make cooking faster. Oh, that's cool. I love food and I have not enough time. I usually go running to combat the fact that I love food, and it takes a little bit of effort. Okay. Free and stable Wi-Fi for all. Yeah, I'm with you, Shelby. So you see in what we're doing here, I tossed out some stuff, right? Now I'm going to take one of those, and I'm going to put that into a sticky note. Let's put student mental health prioritization. Hop in the board with me and keep putting ideas down on the board. Feel free to go in grab a sticky note and jot down your stuff. I'll take you through something here in a bit, and we'll spend maybe a minute or so doing this. So again, jump on board number 5, and we'll keep going. So I'll drop in the stable Wi-Fi for all. That is the promise of 5G, I think. We'll see how that goes in a bit. Learn how to keep my plants alive. And help students stop procrastinating on big assignments. And I'm going to zoom out because I think I see some more stickies kind of popping in. Awesome. And we got global warming in here. I think I didn't see that one get onto the board. There we go. Drop that one. Ah, the commute to work. I wish I had a commute to work. I miss going into my office. We're all remote right now. All right. Did I miss anything else from our chat here? Mental health prioritization. Awesome. Okay. Cool. So keep throwing stuff down, by the way. So part of the idea of the big ideas exercise is this should take maybe a half hour. So when you go through this with your team, you want to set aside a window of time, maybe 30 minutes, right? 30 to 60 minutes at the top end. It's just one of those diverging things. It's to get as much on the page as possible, right? If you have to squish stuff down to make things fit, you're doing awesome, right? When you get that many things down, that's the best thing in the world. Messy is great. Don't evaluate or dismiss things. You want to generate as much stuff as is possible, and everyone's got an idea, right? Don't mistake or leave behind something that you think might be silly, or don't leave anybody out because you think they may not have the background or the expertise, right? Everyone's got a unique perspective. So make sure as a team, everyone's contributing. And finally, one minor point that's important here is stay out of the weeds. Evaluate's most important and feasible, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But put as much down on paper as possible, as much into the board as possible, right? Another key point, and I think I see people doing it already, is you want to riff on what's already there, right? So if something sparks an idea, I think I saw save the trees and save the bees, right? If you got a variant of something, put it down, right? This is one of those things where if I say something and then you say something and you play it back to me, then we might come up with something even more awesome. This is one of those exercises to do that. Bitcoin and stocks. If you could explain to me exactly what happened with GameStop, I would appreciate it. I have a master's degree and I can do partial differential equations, and I still don't quite get how you can sell more than you have. So with everything said here, we now have a bunch of cool stuff on the page, right? We've got all these things that are out here. Now our exercise is to organize these things, right? So what we want to do is put together and cluster things that are similar-ish, right? So if you see something that's kind of close together, put it close together physically on the board, right? So you already got stocks and crypto, that's cool. Global warming, I will put down next to, where did save the trees? I'll put that over here. And the B's and the C's, that's awesome. And let's change the color on this guy just so it stands out from the other one. And banning plastic and recycling, that's cool. I got our commute, procrastinating, about parking. Can I put parking next to the commute thing? Is that, I know when I went to OU, I spent one time probably about an hour going all the way up a parking garage, coming all the way back down a parking garage, just missed an entire class. Yeah, so you guys are getting it now. So now I see the things kind of going together, right? So with each of these, now I'm going to ask you to do one more step. Give each cluster a name. Give it just some big title, right? It may be something like the environment. And that is super duper. Don't want it that big. Actually, don't want it that big either. Yeah, it's better. All right. Oh, actually, that goes up here now. All right, it's got the environment up here. And let's see, what else do we see here? We got like recycling or resource. I'm going to say resource reuse. Is that a fair one? And it's okay, by the way, you see this actually, it's okay if something kind of has a spectrum of related things. We want to just start mapping them out, right? Money talk, yep, that's good. And then you also see sometimes things just kind of stick out, and that's perfectly fair. They can be on their own. Accessibility, yep, I see that. Actually, I would almost count Wi-Fi as an accessibility thing because it's such a key part of getting stuff done in our society, right? That if you don't have the resource, you're really having to go do a lot of extra work and having to go through a lot of extra trouble for getting access to a lot of things, right? Awesome. So I see the clusters kind of coming together. Okay. So now this is the hard part because I can't do voting in a Jamboard, but let's go to my presentation. I'll show you a prioritization grid. And feel free to keep fiddling with this if you want. We'll come back to it in a minute. So prioritization grids. So presume you spent about a half hour going through, working on a problem, working through some ideas, and you got those big ideas that we put together, right? Prioritization grids will hopefully help you answer which of these things are the most important and the most feasible given the release or planning time we have for us to go work on. If you're familiar with agile methodologies, you might hear the term writing an epic or writing a story or writing a hill, something like that. This will help you prioritize those concepts so you don't end up writing a story or writing a hill or an epic or a feature that you can't do in this planning period or doesn't align to the market or doesn't align to the user's needs. So there's really two parts. First, we're going to vote, and we're going to plot on the grid. So voting, here's what it looks like. Each person gets the same number of votes. You can do this in Discord, you can do this in Jamboard, you can do this literally holding up some paper to a webcam if you want, right? But everyone gets the same number of votes. I like to do about 3 votes per person. You want to evaluate each of those big ideas on your own. And you want to vote 2 different ways. We're going to vote twice. You'll get 3 votes for impact and 3 votes for feasibility. And what that might look like is something like this, what's shown on the screen. You'll see these 2 different colors of dots, right? You see that I've got my votes that might be for what I think is a high impact thing or what I think is going to be super duper feasible. And when you do that, the cool part is that you're going to then plot it on a grid based on the votes from the whole team. So I already gave you a copy of this in the Jamboard. You can copy the whole page and go take it and use it for your projects or working through a problem or whatever you like, right? So feel free to duplicate the page and rip all the stuff off that's not important and take what you need. the template's there. But you should keep the prioritization grid. And if you look, we're going to plot things according to importance or impact on the up-down axis and feasibility on the left-right axis. These sections that are drawn into the grid really kind of give you an idea of where you're at, right? This is the moment that you get to figure out what's a so-called no-brainer, right? The things that are super feasible and they're going to have an impact. There are things that are likewise low impact and not feasible, right? Those are the things that really maybe aren't a good use of time. There are things that might be high impact, but maybe not so feasible, right? Those are going to be big bets, right? That might differentiate you from your peers or from the competitors. And there are things that might be maybe not quite as impactful, but hey, you can knock it out in 20 minutes, right? Those are utilities. Those are things that become useful when you start building and assembling them together, hanging that around the broader theme of what's going to satisfy your user. When we define that map in this way, I'll get out of my presentation, we can start seeing that there's this idea of having these big bets, right? The no-brainers, the utilities, and things we probably should steer away from. The way that you can maybe do this is I would like you to, from this mural, we'll spend about a minute, and I put these 2 stars on the mural. So depending on whether you're on a mobile, a tablet, or your computer, you want to copy the star. So you can do that, duplicate, however you want to do it. And then I want you to paste 3 blue stars for things that you think are going to be impactful out of these categories, okay? Feel free to grab the star and copy it and plop it down somewhere in the area. And then you want to take 3 of my little pink bubbles down here without the star. Plot 3 things that you think might be feasible. And let's see what we end up with. And we'll spend maybe a minute doing this. So make your 3 votes. Please don't cheat. We don't have any sort of audit system. Just, the honor system. Please be nice. Do kind things. Do the rules that are in the Discord. And grab 3 blue stars and just plop them down, and grab 3 pink stars and plop them down, or 3 pink circles and plop them down. By the way, one of my secrets with this is you can vote the same thing multiple times if you want. So if you want to spend all your votes on accessibility, peace be with you. I'm going to spend all your feasibility things on the food category. Awesome. I love to understand what you think is going to make this an awesome thing to do. So as you can see, we start to get a sense based on the number of stars we see here, right? What's where in terms of feasibility and in terms of importance and impact. Okay, so I see fewer stars and bubbles moving around. This looks exactly like the way I want it to look, which is awesome. This is how it should look. It should be messy. It should be kind of sloppy. That's great. But now we get to apply some rigor. We get to count, which one's got the most. So I see, let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the environment, and that's according to impact, right? And then I see feasibility, no votes for the environment. Okay, so that puts, I'm going to put the environment, right? Oh, it's in green. That's awesome. I'll take that and kind of land that one as high impact, right? But we don't think it's feasible. So it's just kind of up here, right? But if I look now at make sure people recycle or resource reuse as the broader category, right? So I've got my resource reuse. That one's got 1, 2, 3 stars for impact. So that's kind of down here-ish somewhere. and a bunch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that 6 or 7? 7. So that's like way over here, right? Money talk. That one's money talk. And if you all want to help me with this, please feel free. I'd appreciate it. We'll go faster. Get to the next part. The money talk will kind of be, let's see, feasible. Yeah, that's about a 3, but not really important. Education. So that one, we got a couple of points for impact. Actually, so money talk should be below education, right? But not as feasible. Food. Yes, you are my people. I could see that. Transportation. Do we get transportation in here? And pardon my spelling. That was not one of my strong suits. So transportation has a couple on importance, but only 1. So we're down here somewhere. And do we miss anything? What are we missing? Accessibility. Where's accessibility? It's not in there. So we got, yeah, so that's awesome. So now, based on our exercise, right? We spent, what was that? Maybe about 10 minutes turboing through this process, maybe 15, right? But in that time, we got a sense, we put everything down. I just gave you guys a prompt of, hey, give me an idea, right? And this is what we ended up with. We ended up with a bunch of cool stuff. And we brought it together into these broad categories. And we spent a few minutes voting on them. And everyone got to take their vote. And I hope, you spent a little bit of time thinking about it, right? But that vote then says, as a group, as a team, here's what we think is going to be our most impactful and most feasible area to go work on. So given the limitless possibilities of all the things you can do, we can now say, hey, look, great, awesome, let's focus on food stuff. And now that we have the food stuff, we can say, all right, there's now some different things we can do with this. There's work on recipe books to make cooking faster and efficient and useful for single parents, right? And we can start riffing on those things to see, okay, what really can we pull out as where we should focus and actually start driving feature and function. This is by far my favorite way to settle that feeling of like fierce arguments you get into with people around whose idea is what should be the first top thing, right? This is the way to help grab that chaos, put it down on paper, and then make sense out of what's there. And honestly, this is something that I use with my team probably once or twice a week as we work through things. Now, next up, I'm going to share with you another cool trick. This is called an empathy map. So why is this important? You're building software, you're building something, you're creating something in the hackathon that will at some point satisfy some end user. So you need to understand, who are those users? You want to put yourself in your user's shoes in the context of what you're going to offer to them. What does she need to do? What pressures is she under, right? So you want to do the same kind of sticky note exercise, and we'll get to that in a second. Label any sticky notes that are unknowns, assumptions, or questions, and you'll go and figure those out later. Your goal is to move from observations to shared insights. So what's this look like? This is really pretty simple. It's a simple grid. You'll see this in the Jamboard that is divided up into 4 quadrants. There's what's the user saying, what's the user thinking, what's the user doing, and what's the user feeling. And then add what you know. Do your best to avoid pet issues or features here, but kind of gather what you think is appropriate, right? Put a guess. If you don't know for sure, say it's a guess, right? But design that. And one of the most important things is to give your user a name. Draw a face for that user. Draw a picture. Grab clip art off of the web somewhere, right? If you need to, but do that work. And I'll share actually with you in a few minutes what this looks like for real in our software. When you're done with it, an empathy map looks like this. It builds a story for, in this case, Satish, the infrastructure administrator. We understand that Satish works hard. We understand that he feels trapped because of the work he's doing, because he's reacting to data center emergencies. And he's getting pressure to add new cloud services, and he's scared. He's scared of failing, of getting things wrong, of not being valued by his boss or his team. And if only he had software that could guide him or educate him or help him deliver these cloud solutions with ease of speed without messing up, he'd feel confident, valued, content, and even happy, right? You want to, in this case, write more than you talk. You want to avoid self-editing and put it up into the board. An absurd idea might have some inspiration for the others. So you'll see that in this page. Again, I gave you a copy of this. You can grab a copy of this, use it for your own team as you like, right? You can go in here, duplicate this to your heart's intent, duplicate this to your heart's intent, right? So use these to start building up a sense of what your user is going to do and what they're saying, what they're feeling as they're doing it, and what they're thinking. And you'll get some really interesting insights from that. In this case, I want to show you kind of how this goes. And I'll do that using a piece of software that I helped to design and implement a little while ago. So what we're looking at is a piece of software that's a computer vision system that is able to learn objects out there in the world. And in this case, we're going out to a manufacturing facility that fills up and cleans milk crates. And they distribute milk out to your favorite grocery store. And they actually had a problem. They were losing milk crates. And they wanted to audit the crates as they were unloaded so they could try to count when they were losing them and where they were losing them, right? And they had a person doing it. And we looked at that and said, we could probably help with this. Now, the software that you're looking at is seeing little dots painted on the screen, and there's a count up in the corner that's looking at the count as it moves across that band in the middle. That band is counting the stacks, and you can maybe keep a count as you go along. So these are, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there's another 6 there. And as a human being, you can kind of keep up with it as you go. But what happens when they start to come a little bit faster? This is where the computer vision and the deep learning models that we have come into play. And we help them go do this and help them solve their problem. And it's one of those things where lost milk crates, oddly enough, was leading to millions of dollars of loss per year of product, right? So my software, the software platform that I helped to design, is built to help people go out into the world and solve things like this. Now, we design personas, just like I was telling you with that empathy map. Our personas in the software are Iris, the image analyst. Iris knows what a data set is. She searches for things and that's trying to automate her data labeling jobs. She creates a data hierarchy or taxonomy. She finds insights from images and video, and she provides data sets to a data scientist and collaborates on data curation and labeling. We have Danny, our developer, who's always iterating. He's writing code, but he's not really familiar with things like TensorFlow or PyTorch. He's maybe taken a day of an MLDL course online, so he knows what the letters mean. And he's delivering apps. He's trying to do it quickly. He's working with the business stakeholders. And finally, we have Danielle, our data scientist, who uses data sets to train models. She develops customer models to classify and detect objects. She's creating models, and she's always experimenting and fiddling, and she's finding insights in image data. So these personas are based on those saying, thinking, doing, feeling empathy maps we talked about a few minutes ago. And they help us shape the software, how we design the actual user experience in the program. That it helps us to build not just the GUI, but how the whole program works as an information architecture, delivering feature and function, ingesting data, building things, and producing things for our users. So take, for example, this idea of labeling for our analyst user, right? This is actually an example from one of our prototypes, it's super early prototype. As I told you, there's that idea of observe, make, reflect, right? In this case, we built a prototype of the software, and you're watching someone go through and click through the process. And you're watching them go create and label a video for whatever purpose. And we do that so we can watch what they do and we can watch their interactions. And as they do that, we learn lots of cool things. We inform ourselves as a design team, as a development team, and we can use that to actually shape how this works. So one of the comments that actually came out from our feedback from the users is, this is just hard. They were exhausted after doing it for an hour. That's not what you want to hear from a program that you're writing, right? So when I look at this and I step through our prototype experience, using all this cool technology we built up, required a user to jump around in the program. They had to go through 2 different UIs, do things moving labels and data around. They had to understand what mapped from A to B and how this all worked. And in the redesign, after we learned from this experience, after observing them using the software, we realized, okay, here's where the separation should be. Here's where we should divide things. We said, you know what? Regardless of the workflow, we can actually pull these things together. We can reduce the number of tasks, and we can define together actually a different flow through the software, one that hits what the user's trying to do and deliver them that complete experience in a pleasant and easy to use way. Now, the program I mentioned is now actually out in the field. We've had it out in the field for a couple of years, and we've literally won awards for software design. We've won awards for the core of the computer science bits from IEEE. We've won awards for how we operate as a team. And that's why I wanted to share this with you, because this application of design thinking, this application of watching your users, of trying to diverge as a team, of converging as a team, using the tools in your tool bag. These are ways that you can really crisply define a problem, crisply define how you're going to deliver value for your customer, and really drive business results at the end of the day. So where do we go next? You can decide, but I want to give you a link here. So the IBM.biz/field guide public, I'll drop in Discord in a minute. This is a PDF that walks through everything I shared with you and then more. In fact, I will bring it back over onto my screen here and we can take a look at it. If I grab the right one. Where did we go? Oh, there we go. So this field guide is a simple PDF. It walks through in a little more detail the things of the loop of going through and defining your users and all that kind of stuff. We talk about some great exercises to go in when you have a little more time around defining what your hopes and fears are for a project, or even defining who your stakeholders are, which is sometimes mysteriously hard to tease out, right? The empathy map exercise is in there. One thing that I'll share with you that I think might be really useful for the hackathon is the scenario map, right? Being able to map out and really say, here's what's going to happen from time to time, moment to moment. What's the user doing, thinking, feeling as they're moving through some process in your tool or what you're working on. In addition, storyboarding. Storyboarding is awesome. So storyboarding is a great way to align yourselves around a given experience. And that can, again, be sticky notes. It could be just writing 10 words on a sticky in the Jamboard and saying, okay, first we're gonna have a login that's going to ask for some information. We're going to have a welcome page that does this. They're going to provide this to us, and we're going to go take them and do some processing. It might just be a comic book of just what's happening, right? But having that will help you map out that complete journey so you can see how your stuff plums together to satisfy your users. I'll share this with everyone. I'll put it into the Discord and make sure it's available. You can download it and grab it and do some awesome stuff with it. With that, I think that's everything I've got to share. Have fun, enjoy the hackathon, do great things. If you want to come work for IBM, by the way, go to ibm.com/jobs. We have stuff going on for both internships and full-time. And I look forward to crossing paths with you again. Cheers. Thanks so much.